All registered voters within the Portland Public School District may vote in this Zone 3 contest, as well as for candidates in the 3 other Portland Public School Districts up for election.
Hello, and welcome to the League of Women Voters of Portland Voter Forum for the May 16, 2023 special election for the candidates for Zone 3 on the Portland School Board election. I am Linda Mather of the League of Women Voters of Portland, and I'll be moderating this forum. The League is presenting this voter forum for the candidates of Zone 3 for the board because this was the only election position which has more than one candidate who filed for the election. The League is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to making democracy work. We believe that democracy works best when voters are informed about the issues and engaged in their communities. We're presenting this forum to give Portland voters the opportunity to learn more about the candidates. Recordings of this forum will be available on the League's website, as well as both videos and podcasts through Election Day, which again is May 16th. We've invited both candidates for Zone 3 to participate in this voter forum, and both of them have agreed to do so. So I welcome Derek Peterson and Pat Sullivan, and thank you again for participating. We are grateful for the support of the Carol and Velma Sailing Foundation, the League of Women Voters of Portland Education Fund, the Weiss Foundation, and our media partner, Metro East Community Media. Now, let's get started and talk about a couple of the guidelines. The candidates are going to give an opening and a closing of not more than 2 minutes. The answers to the questions will be 60 seconds. The questions have not been provided to the candidates, but they are prepared so that we can move forward. The initial candidate order for the statements and the answers to the questions have been determined by the random candidate alphabet drawn by the Oregon Secretary of State. And that will also mean that I will continue to alternate once we get started. So in that order, Mr. Peterson, you go first. And if you would give us, please, your opening statement.
Well, good morning. I am Derek Peterson. I'm running for Portland School Board Zone 3. I was born in Portland, Oregon. I attended Portland State University, where I earned a degree in administration of justice. I'm a retired captain or chief deputy of the Corrections Division at Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, where I served for the community for more than 36 years, or just about 36 years. I managed over 400 personnel and a $30 million budget. I've been involved in education for 25 years, and during that time, I've been a diversity instructor. I've taught diversity and management classes at various educational institutions, and am on the social science board for a local college. I've been a youth coach for various sports and continue to look forward to doing that later on in my retirement. I have a long history of community engagement and have worked with various organizations such as Portland Safety Action Coalition, the Ward is Bond, and the NAACP to address community problems. These relationships will be critical in my success as a board member. I have a wide range of endorsers to include all 7 PPS board members, former Multnomah County Commissioner Diane McKeel, State Representative Bynum, former PPS board members, member Bobby Reagan. In addition, I have endorsements from Stand for Children, Willamette Women's Democrats, and LiUNA Local 737, Some of the things that my priorities at this point would be student mental health, school safety, student achievement gaps, especially for those of color, and introducing alternative work opportunities to students. I believe that this resume, my unique life of experience, gives me or makes me the best candidate for Portland School Board, and I look forward to working with the other board members as well as the public in the schools.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Sullivan, for your opening statement?
Okay, my name is Patty Sullivan. I'm running for school board because I care about education and think that my experience as an educator will be useful in deciding board policies. I have been involved with education for more than half of my life, and being on the board would continue that involvement. I taught kindergarten, first and second grades for 20 years in Portland Public Schools. After retirement, I supervised student teachers from Lewis and Clark College and led school tours at the Art Museum. I understand what students and teachers need to succeed. I have looked at the 2023 bargaining platform for the school district and agree with their statement that if we want safe, stable, and equitable communities, public schools are the linchpin. One of my children, a nurse, told me that the difference between pre-COVID and now is the number of presentations to the emergency room for behavioral health. Schools are the biggest touch point for young people to be able to identify those needs earlier so that they don't end up in emergency situations. I recognize that bullying is a problem and will work with educators to find a way to help all students, regardless of race, class, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or homelessness. And I want them to feel all safe and respected. The current political climate attacking transgender and gender diverse youth is especially important to me and very personal because one of my children is non-binary and works with non-binary youth. I am ready to step back into the educational system by serving on the board. I am retired and I have the time, and I feel strongly about finding the best ways to serve the children in our community. Thank you.
And thank you. Let's move now to those lovely questions that you only get 60 seconds to answer. So, Ms. Sullivan, you're going to start us off with the first one. What is the single most important issue to you now facing the Portland School Board? And of course, how would you resolve it in 60 seconds?
Well, I think coming back from COVID with so many with social and emotional problems is probably the biggest thing that educators have to do. Educators have been working with that forever, but this is just harder now. And we need more resources into counseling, into social workers, into working with poverty situations and homelessness. And I have looked at the board's document for their vision, and all of those things are included in there. And of course, that's a vision. The vision is different than actually getting it done. But I think that the former board has worked hard on this vision, and they know that we need extra counselors. We can't have a 1 to 500 ratio of counselors, which is what it was in 2019. So a lot of, when I talked to the superintendent who graciously talked to all board members and incoming board members about his vision, I think that's a real priority for him.
Okay.
And
I have to stop you at this point. Okay, thank you. Okay, got it. Okay, no problem. We're okay. And Mr. Peterson, what about you for the most important issue?
I would echo Patty in that mental health, student mental health is extremely important. When we look at post-COVID and the situations of introducing students back into a school setting, we see uptick in violence, bullying, teachers also having issues, whether it's managing students in a classroom that may be a little bit too big to that extent, especially with special needs students and students exhibiting mental health issues. And I think that's a major issue as we go forward. I'm looking at making sure that we touch base with the governor to make sure that we have some funding, whether it's funding from the state or other dollars that we can attack or find to help that situation, to get counselors in, to get wraparound services. We talk about adult services out there all the time, and wraparound services. Our students need that. Our faculty and staff need that as well. So that's my answer to that particular question, to make sure that our students are taken care of and have the best chance to be adults, productive adults. And that starts with making sure that their mental health situation is taken care of. One other thing I would like to say is that it may be important to look at breaking kids out of class, to have those one-on-one times with counselors, and making sure that there's enough counselors.
Thank you. I'm going to have to stop you there, but I'm going to get you going on the next question, which is, how should the board address the situation for those students who have fallen behind academically during the pandemic?
Well, that's going to be a multi-level approach to me, and I can only speak to a few things, but it's going to be important that we look at other cities in the country to see what they're doing that is working. And then we have other school boards in the state that are doing well. One of the things that I'd like to see is bringing mentors in, those of color. I know that there's in a particular city, Black men coming into the schools, mentoring students, giving them opportunities to speak to them in different ways, reading to them at an early age and on up, and just being examples of what successful adults are, especially those of color, and inspiring them. So that's an aspect of getting into these particular situations to help our students, our youth, and especially those of color. So I'm extremely concerned about that, and hope that we can find ways to mitigate the situations and circumstances that are happening in our classrooms.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Sullivan, for the students academically left behind.
Well, the first thing we have to do is find out where they are, where each child is. And I'm against a lot of testing, statewide, but teachers will be doing their own testing to see where the students are and taking them from there. And as Derek said, we definitely need to have more special ed teachers where they can have a load that's reasonable, where they can come into the classroom. Sometimes you want special ed to come into the classroom. Sometimes the students come out. That has to be decided with the teacher. The teacher needs the time for evaluation and working with each child from where they are. And it's hard because you've got a classroom of 25. How do you do each one where they are? But I trust teachers that they can figure out a way. And if they get enough support with people coming into the classroom, and as Derek said, some people from outside, but mainly it's going to have to come within the district with people who are qualified to teach.
Okay, we're going to move you on to another question. And again, Ms. Sullivan, you're going to start. What can the board do to help mitigate the challenges to homeless students so that those students can succeed?
Well, I have a contact there. My granddaughter works with the homeless, actually. And she has said and actually the superintendent said they do this too, just have a resource room where there are at least school supplies that people can pick up. There are ways to work with bigger government things to have liaisons for homeless, but of course that's a bureaucracy. So the school district itself is finding ways to help find homes, help with food. There's backpack programs that are some volunteers, some through the district, so people will have food over the weekend. I was really impressed in talking with the superintendent because I mentioned this government program that my granddaughter had mentioned, and he said, well, that takes too long. We're already doing that in our individual schools. So I think the schools have become way more than education. The schools have become care.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Peterson.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important that we make sure we're identifying those students that are needing assistance on all levels. And when we're talking about homeless, that's a major issue. Finding adequate housing, safe housing is extremely important, and robust housing that gives kids a chance at learning, getting food in their bellies, and having heat and a bed to lay in is extremely important for their success, because we know that it's been tested and talked about that if you're not prepared to come into class to learn, you're thinking about your hunger pains or things that are happening out in the world. That's a problem, and that's a distraction. So making sure that we're connecting with state organizations out there to ensure that our students have the best possibility for success, and especially getting them into housing so they're not homeless in those situations. So that's my answer in a nutshell. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And you're going to do this one for us first. It's a little bit long, but it's kind of basic. As a liaison between the community and the superintendent, how will you solicit and weigh input from teachers, from parents, from staff, from students, and from the community?
Well, I have a track record coming from where I worked and now retired from, of having an open door policy. And actually, I believe in going after relationships. You can't just sit back and think that it's just going to happen. So you can say you have an open door policy, but how are you going after relationships and establishing them? And when you do that, you begin to build trust. And there's a lot of trust issues going on right now where faculty, staff, students, and the public are having major issues with people in leadership. And it stems from not building those relationships. So the first thing I would do is make sure, hey, here's my number, and short of, like I say, hunting them down, but making sure that I'm making phone calls to the various folks that are within the district to make sure that they understand who I am, what I'm trying to do, and elicit their ideas. And it comes not just the relationship building part of it, but listening to the faculty, the kids, the people, the adults that are out there that are concerned about our community and concerned about our school system.
Thank you. Ms. Sullivan?
Okay,
Would you like me to reread it, or you're okay?
Yes, reread it.
Okay. It just has a lot of commas in it.
Yeah,
As a liaison between the community and the superintendent, how will you solicit and weigh input from teachers, from parents, from staff, from students, and from the community?
Well, to elicit, just to be open, let people know they can email or come to board meetings. And of course, the teachers have a union that helps them, but I would be open to individual teachers as well. Parents, of course, it's a little harder for them. Some are not that comfortable coming to board meetings, but I would try to, as much as I could, be open. I've always been someone people can talk to. I know there's a student liaison on the board. I would encourage students in all schools to know that they could come to board meetings. And I guess I'd just be open, let people know I was there, and listen. I'm probably partial to teachers. I was a teacher, but I was also a parent. So I kind of know that everybody needs to be heard.
Okay, and thank you. And Ms. Sullivan, you'll start us with this one. How can we achieve equity in the fair allocation of district resources among the schools within the district?
Well, we have to look at where we're spending our money. We have to say, this school is falling apart and it's getting nothing. And you just have to look at what you're doing and make it equitable. When I read the vision, that was what they said they're trying to do. I would just look carefully at where we're spending our money and where we need it and try to put it where it's needed. Fairly
Okay.
simple.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
Yes, it's extremely difficult sometimes to divvy out or have an equitable distribution of funds. But first, you got to identify the need and where it's at. And I think it's important that we talk to all the constituents that are affected by it and making sure that those who have wealth and money and the means to be able to help their students out in other areas versus maybe the inner city, to have all hands on deck to say, hey, what can we do to make sure there's equity throughout the system? It can't just be one-sided, and so everybody has to buy into that. So making sure funds are evenly or distributed accordingly, and they can. I'm not talking about evenly. That's different, but making sure those funds are distributed in a way. Looking to the governor to help with those resources, and then also the local city and county to make sure that there are resources that are given to that situation to make sure that equity is included in the process.
Okay, thank you. You are listening to the League of Women Voters of Portland Voter Forum or podcast for Zone 3 of the Portland Public School Board of Education. We'll turn now to our next question, which Mr. Peterson, you're going to start us on, and it is, do you agree or disagree with the PPS board's decision to shut down the Online Learning Academy at the end of 2023?
Well, I haven't got a chance to dive into that per se. I'd love to circle back around with you as I look at different issues that are going on. There has to come a time, though, where the online starts to shut down. But I think that it's an opportunity for the school district to expand in different ways because there's different ways of learning. And it's showing us that there's times where online learning is just best for students. It's the best way to get them to attend, to have a diversity of thought and process of learning. And so I think we need to be looking at how can we fold that in and adapt as we've seen that it's been very important. And we see it on Zoom calls right now that we've had more participation of folks showing up to meetings and things like that. So we need to look at a diversity of ways to teach our kids. And I think online learning is one of those tools.
And Ms. Sullivan, your position on the online learning, excuse me.
I think we saw that for most students, online learning did not work, especially in the primary grades. But getting rid of it entirely doesn't really make sense either, because there are some people who seem to thrive, but it was a very small amount. And they also, I think it needs to be looked at carefully, because even if they might have done well academically, certainly there were problems with social development if you did all online learning. So it maybe can be one tool, but I can't see it as the only way. But then again, we let kids be homeschooled. So maybe there's a way with online learning to also have a social, emotional contact with that to support it. I'm not sure. I'm mixed. All I know is it certainly didn't work for most children.
Okay. Let's start with another one. And Ms. Sullivan, you're going to start us. This is more traditional. What programs would you support to increase college and career readiness for the students?
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, first
You like these 60-second ones, right?
Okay. Yeah. To get the students interested, first of all. Of course, they have to have that base the knowledge base, but to find areas where they're interested. I know the district is looking at programs where students would be working kind of internships or even online internships, and ways to connect the student's interest with the education that would follow it. You know, some students are great. They just want to go on to college. I'm just going to go step, 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 step. Others need to be encouraged through their interest level. And I am very supportive of getting students out into the community to do work and to find things of interest.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Peterson?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What programs would you support to increase college and career readiness for the students?
So some of the things I look at is making sure that appropriate classes are afforded to our students, especially in the sciences, as AI is ever part of our society, and different things that are changing. So we're going to have to make sure that students are acclimated and have those opportunities. Arts is another situation where it expands our students' opportunities and abilities, especially those who are underprivileged and that usually don't get a chance to delve into the arts. The other things are making sure that there is opportunities for our students to look at work experiences outside of the norm, which is kind of those union trade jobs and things that are important for our society going forward, and giving a wide variety of chances for students, not only just to go to school, but also get into working right away out of high school if they choose not to go to college. So I think those are some important segues into making sure that our students are prepared for life after high school.
Okay, and let's get them out of high school first with this question, if you would, Mr. Peterson. How, if at all, would you address increasing the graduation rate of the district's high school students?
Well, I believe the superintendent and his plan is extremely robust, and some of the things haven't come to fruition yet. So I'm going to be on that wait and see kind of position as we're coming out of the pandemic and seeing how these programs and things that he's offering will help our students be prepared. I lost my thought on what the question was. I'm sorry.
You're increasing the graduation rate.
Yeah, so it definitely goes to our education and going all the way down to the first and third grade to make sure that the reading, arithmetic, all those things are enjoyable for our students, so that they, as they progress through, they have a firm foundation for graduation. So that's the first thing, is getting back to the basics and making sure our students are thriving and learning at an early age.
Okay, and Ms. Sullivan, graduation rates?
Of course, the basics, and of course, kind of make it so that it's exciting to learn, and making students really want to come to school. And that's, Derek mentioned earlier about the arts, get those kinds of things so that students, maybe they aren't great in academics and they don't really want to go to their math class, but if they're excited about, I can go to that music class, I can go to that art class, they're going to come. I mean, I have a granddaughter. If it weren't for ceramics, she'd never gotten out of high school. But, you have those teachers who find the person who has the gift or the desire for a certain thing, and you lead them toward that and say, oh, and by the way, if you want to teach ceramics, maybe you have to go to college. So maybe you want to also pass this history class. Maybe you also want to pass this math class. And so keeping the joy in learning. And it's not easy. I taught little ones. That was easier to keep the joy in. When they're older, you have to find what's in them and steer them that way.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go more technical now. And Ms. Sullivan, you're going to start us. What portions of the annual $1.89 billion budget would you like to see increased? or decreased, and why?
Well, I definitely want the counseling and social work is increased. And I definitely want the aides that can come in and work one-on-one with students who need help increased. Okay, so that's increased. Now I have to think of a decrease. Well, oh man. I can't think of a decrease. I'm sorry. I can't think of, I don't think we're wasting money. I think we just have to work harder to find it somewhere. And I think we've got a governor who wants to help. I don't really know about the city these days. I don't know what the city is doing. They're working so hard with the homeless. But I think, unfortunately, money is a big deal, and we have to find it
That's right.
somewhere.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Peterson, what would you do?
And can you please, read?
Okay, sure I can. Once I find it again. Here we go. What portions of the annual 1.891, I can't even handle all these numbers, $1.89 billion budget would you like to see increased or decreased?
Well, I'm on board with Patty, especially with the counselors and the aides. I think also we're looking at teacher salaries. It's extremely important as we try to hire the best, the brightest for our kids, because that's where it starts in the classroom, making sure that those students are exposed to instructors that care about them, that are enthusiastic and have the skill sets to work through some of the issues we have right now with our students with the mental health component. So increase in mental health programs is a very important target for me. Safety is another one. So there's a lot of things we can look at to make it more robust, more palatable for our students for their success. And that's what I'd be looking at, is to bring some of those resources money resources to those issues that I just talked about.
Okay, thank you. Next question. And let me flip it a little bit, only because you need to know where it's going. It's about civic, and Mr. Peterson, you're going to start us. Civic education or engagement and voting in young people. So the whole question is, what steps or educational programs, if any, would you support to encourage civic education and voting in our young people?
Well, I think it's extremely important for our youth to be involved in civics. We know that voting is very important for them to understand just how the government functions. I know that's fallen short, and our future is in our vision to make sure that students understand how the issues around politics work and how they're going to be folded into that and be a big part of moving and changing that. So I think making sure that they get down to the state legislature and have a time to sit down with representatives and senators, have people come into the schools to make sure that they're visiting and giving them those ideas and understanding of what civics looks like. Get them out in the community in different areas and doing civic types of programs or offerings and just working in the community. So those are some important things that I see to make sure that our students are involved.
Okay, and Ms. Sullivan, for you?
Yeah, I do think we need to have a required course in civics, or maybe a half year at least, to know the branches of government and how it works, because I just read the other day, a lot of people don't even know that. Then, of course, getting out in the community, even having elections in your school. How does that work? How do you say, I don't know if they do student body presidents and stuff anymore. I haven't been in high school for a long time, but something to show students how it works. Ways to get involved in volunteer organizations, how they can help their community. When there is an election coming up, have the students do mock elections so they can take different sides and argue different points, and then have an election and see how that comes out, and have an election where they agree with the results, because that's the way it was. Yeah, and have them discuss problems that are in their life. What do we do about homelessness? And have children try to understand something like homelessness so that they can have empathy for others in their class.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
Help you all. This is your last question, so you can get ready to breathe. And it's actually 2 parts in 60 seconds again. Ms. Sullivan, you're going to start us. What principles should be used for drawing boundaries for the schools? Would you support the concept of an independent redistricting commission to draw the lines of the board member districts?
Oh, well, I have no idea, to tell you the truth. I don't know why we need different boundaries. If there's a reason, if somebody can show me a reason, then I would say, let's get a committee together and look at why we have to change them, and get the people in the different districts to decide, work together and decide what's fair. As I said, I don't even know there's a problem with where the districts are. So I don't have much to say about that.
Okay. And Mr. Peterson.
Yeah, I just see that populations expand and contract, especially places of where people are students in the inner city and going out to the outer city. So you have seen changes in those populations and the needs of students, and it's extremely important to be aware of those things and establish boards and committees to make sure that the underserved students are being attended to, and making sure that we as a society, as a group of people in Portland, are attentive to those issues. So I think it's extremely important for us to make sure that the boundaries are correct, and that services then are poured into those particular school zones where people need more attention to, whether it's housing, to mental health, to more situations where they need, I think, academic studies and those kind of things that they're falling short on. So we need to make sure that we're doing those kind of things and staying up above board on boundaries.
I fibbed. I'm going to throw in another question, if I may. It's clear that it's not difficult. It's not easy being a Board of Education member. You're going to face many, many issues. So, Mr. Peterson, why are you running for this office?
Well, not just because I'm retired, but it gives me some more time, and to be able to address some of the issues. And as I stated earlier, one of the things that I just am extremely interested in is making sure that I have the opportunity to work upstream to keep students from getting justice involved. I think that's extremely important to me. Again, student health, school safety, student achievement gaps, those are of concern to me. And making sure, and one of the other questions is that students have opportunities to look at other work experiences so that they're prepared in all ways, whether it's going on to college or going on into trades or other jobs, to have those opportunities. And I think that's extremely important. I know that Portland's in the middle of a crisis, and so our students and our schools are in the middle of it, and it's going to take all hands on deck to address the issues.
Okay. And Ms. Sullivan, why are you running?
There were actually 3 things that hit me all at once. I heard on the radio that there were board openings. I was in a group where we were discussing problems with race and racial equity, and made a list of things that were important to us in a just society. And after the list was made, the leader said, circle 3 things that are that you especially think are important, and then choose one of those that you could actually do something about. And one of them was schools. And I thought, well, I could run for school board. So this was really a last minute decision. And then I found out Derek was running. And another reason I thought, well, maybe there's some really right-wing nut running. I better get out there so they don't get it. Well, obviously that's not the case. But anyway, I signed up. And now I'm just in talking to the superintendent and talking to the teachers union. I think, maybe it's just more for me. I really feel it's so important and I would like to be part of it. And I think the Portland Public Schools vision is amazing. I know getting to that vision is going to be super hard. And I would like to be a part of getting there.
Okay, thank you. And thank you again. Let me just remind everybody that they are listening to the League of Women Voters of Portland Voter Forum or Port podcast for Zone 3 of the school board. And we will turn now to our closing. So the closing is 2 minutes. And Ms. Sullivan, you're going to begin with your closing comments, please.
I think that my teaching experience, as well as my experience in raising 3 children, will serve me well in supporting the needs of the children in the district. I miss working with educators. I just had an interview with members of the teachers union. The discussion made me realize how wonderful it is to connect with people who care passionately about education. I also had a meeting with the superintendent, Guadalupe Guerrero. His vision for school improvement is inspiring. I would like to be part of achieving the vision of the district that the district has worked so hard to define. And I believe that my stated goals in the voters pamphlet support this vision. 1, support teachers financially and emotionally. 2, provide safe schools without resorting to policing the schools. 3, provide social and emotional support for every student. 4, support the arts as well as STEM subjects. 5, find support for students that need extra help. 6, resist censorship of reading materials and trust teachers to choose age-appropriate curriculum and encourage critical thinking. And lastly, work toward equity and inclusion for everyone. I know that this is a big job. It will mean reduced class sizes and caseloads and more time for planning and preparation. It will mean more teaching and less standardized testing. It will mean mental health care in every school. As a board member, I will do my best to get the best resources for our teachers so they can do the best for our children and our families.
And thank you. And Mr. Peterson, your closing?
Yeah, I'm just excited to be here, and I just thank you for the time and for the audience to tune in. I just believe in students. I believe in their trajectory to make sure that we as a society, as adults, are making sure that they're getting what they need. That is extremely important. I have been in the community, engaged in the community with, like I said, the NAACP and Word is Bond and different other organizations that are out there trying to meet the needs of Portland, trying to find solutions. And that includes making sure that our students are healthy, that we look at ways of mitigating their mental health issues that are going on. We have an increase in suicide rates, and that's just unacceptable. Drug rates are up. So I think that's important for us to make sure that we're looking at, so that our students are not just surviving, but going beyond surviving. And that's extremely important. As I stated, my priorities are making sure that students are not justice involved. That broke my heart to see kids going through JDH, the juvenile justice system, and then ending up in the adult system. That's just not acceptable. Student health is extremely important. There are the school safety, student achievement gaps, and again, introducing students to other alternative work. As I stated before, our city is in a crisis, and I believe that we need to figure out ways to pay it forward. And that's my mantra, is paying it forward. And I'm just appreciative of those folks who did so when I was a youth, which has made me who I am today. I ask that those who are looking at this, I ask for your vote, and I thank you for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
And thank you. My thanks to both candidates, because not only are you participating here, but you're in fact running, and that speaks so well for our democratic process. Watchers and listeners, please share this forum recording with your friends and families, and of course, urge them to vote. We all need to be informed voters. This recording and other information about this and other races are available now online at vote411.org, and that stays there through Election Day. Ballots will be mailed to all registered voters starting April 27th. As with all Oregon elections, it is mail-in. The ballots are due by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, May 16th. Postmarks do count. Make sure that your ballot is postmarked, however, there's no postage required, by Tuesday, May 16th. Or find a drop box location near you by checking Vote 411 or your Multnomah County voters pamphlet, which will also add information about voting in person. The League of Women Voters is a nonprofit membership organization. We hope this forum was meaningful to you. We welcome you to join or to contribute at lwvpdx.org. Thank you for watching or listening. Please be an informed voter, and remember your vote does count. And again, my thanks to these candidates. Thank you for all.